We are about ready to get started. We have got some epic content for you tonight, and I think what may even be more impactful is the opportunity to ask questions at the end. So throughout the evening, take notes. You've got your workbooks. Take note of all the pearls these amazing humans are going to share with you tonight, but also take note of questions that you might have throughout the night so that when we get to Q&A, you don't forget your questions. So I've zoomed in, right? But what I really want to do is welcome you and thank you for prioritising this. We're actually so impressed, right? You guys are juggling uni, work. Some of you I know have got AHA roles, working in sporting clubs, and you've managed to prioritise this. So it says volumes about the type of graduates you're going to be if you're prioritising this in your busy weeks right now. So a couple of housekeeping things. The toilets are here, so feel welcome to jump out if you need to go to the bathroom. We have had a little bit of a schedule check, and we've realised that our content will probably go till about 8:40, and then we'll have pizza. So if anybody needs to let their loved ones know that perhaps they might be getting home a little bit later than predicted, feel welcome to text family members to let them know. We have our social media coordinator, Bella. You might have met Bella. She's been helping people register and bringing people down to the gym. Bella is going to be producing some content tonight. So if there's anyone in the room who's not comfortable with us posting something on Insta or tagging them if we're connected by Instagram, just let Bella know. You'll see her pictures in a brown t-shirt today, and Bella's very open to that. She'll make sure she honours that. So I think that's about all from me, other than importantly to introduce Mike, who is our clinical director at Boost. So feel welcome to chat to Mike in the Q&A or the pizza networking time. And we also have an awesome sponsor, One. We'll hear a little bit more from One. From Footmedics, and it's Asta, isn't it? The two brands simultaneously. So very grateful that you're here with us tonight. So I'm going to introduce our first speaker. Our first speaker is one of our podiatrists at Boost, an associate podiatrist, Mehar. And Mehar has had an awesome career so far. She's actually moved from New Zealand to work in Australia in private practice, for which we are eternally grateful. Mehar is an absolute boss on the hockey field. We love our boosters being active and happy and practicing what we preach. So any hockey tips, go to Mehar. And I will leave you in great hands here. Thank you, Mehar.
Hey everyone, my name is Mehar. Today I'll be talking a little bit about collaboration with the allied health team and sort of what that looks like in a private practice setting. So, we'll jump. Sorry, 1 second. Just wait it out. Alright. Sorry about that. So we'll have a talk about why collaboration matters. So collaborating in a multidisciplinary team involving podiatry, physio, myotherapy is crucial because it leads to a more effective, holistic and patient-centered care. Patients really fit into one box. Patients benefit from seamless pathways leading to quicker recovery and achieving goal settings as well. Complex injuries problems often need multi-modal solutions, and to get the best outcomes from a team approach as well. I'll slowly jump to the next one, but the next one is benefits for patients and how they benefit as well working collaboratively. So first of all, faster recovery and rehabilitation. While coordinated rehab plans support faster recovery and to help reduce the risk of re-injury and complications as well. Biggest thing is achieving patient goals. Coordinated care amongst health professionals reduces minor medical errors, improvements of diagnosis accuracy, and enhances recovery rate as well. We've got personalised treatment plans as well. So instead of having one size fits all approach, the care is more customised to the specific patient depending on their condition that they're coming in with during clinic. Because the plan is more relevant and realistic for the patient, they're more likely to follow it, feel motivated, and which leads to better health outcomes as well. Benefits for Pracky, so how that benefits us as practitioners, better management for complex injuries. So each team member brings their own specialised knowledge. Sometimes we encounter complex injuries with patients where the treatment plan just isn't working up to as expected. So in these situations, discussing with the case with an allied health team member can be incredibly valuable. Different team members bring their own unique insights and will help reassess the situation, fill in any gaps, and guide us towards a lot more effective and well-rounded plan for the patient as well. So this way, we are learning from each other and it's helping us with our professional development growth as well as practice. And as a pracky, you will feel a lot more supported working in an environment with a team, so we're not feeling like isolated and alone as well. Awesome. So collaboration versus referral. I think the biggest thing I would say with referral is getting like the handover done. More like a one-way street, less interaction with the referrer unless there's like feedback required. Collaboration is more of a two-way street, so two-way communication, is joint planning involved and follow-ups after the consults, depending on the patient. We're just filling in with the practice and the patient at the same time as well. So we'll just have a quick workshop on a case study with a patient that presents with Achilles tendinopathy. So if we can just write down one treatment that you would do in a modality, if you're a physio, or studying to be a physio or a podiatry or myo, if you can just write down one thing and we'll just have a quick chat about that at the end. I'll give you 2 minutes for that. And there's like no right or wrong answer in this as well, guys. Ignore that slide. Just about 30 seconds and we'll jump into that one. Awesome. Is anyone able just to share just one thing with what they would do in a case with a patient with Achilles tendinopathy? Just anyone? Hey.
I'm Stacey.
Nice to meet you, Stacey.
Nice to meet you too. So I'm studying myotherapy. I work with some soft tissue massage to gastrocs and soleus with some PNF stretching and also some needling to gastrocs.
That's awesome. That's perfect. Anyone else want to jump in as well?
Just the loading, just touch everybody, go for these.
Awesome. That's perfect. Active modification. Absolutely. So just jump into something that what I would do in a podiatry setting. So first things first, goal setting is one of the biggest things. Assessments, looking at foot and musculoskeletal assessment, looking at their running and their walking gait, as well as looking at hip and knee strength, and as well as valve assessment as well. With valve testing, we get to collect that data from now and 6 weeks in time to see where we are, where we're progressing at. Other ways as well as footwear modification if we need, after looking at their gait, if we need a lot more neutral support or a bit more supportive shoes for them as well to help support those structures. Orthotic prescription, prescription, we can use them for help in terms of their foot posture, as well as help to take pressure off their Achilles and the calf as well. Strength testing with our calves, as well as our soleus at the same time too, and shockwave therapy, so using shockwave on the calves and the Achilles as well. Now, in terms of a collaboration pathway, I will look at it with running gait assessment in case if I've noticed their hips are quite weak, as well as their glutes, or they're medially like sort of deviating when they're running on the treadmill. Then I would definitely collaborate with a physio to help on hip and glute strength, as well as bowel. Myotherapy as well, if I've noticed with their foot and musculoskeletal assessments, their calf is feeling really tight and it's maybe coming up the chain, referring on to a myotherapy, as well as Stacey said, helping up in dry needling as well. So each of the team members can work in their own little ways as well with what's in the toolbox to help collaboratively help with the patient and achieve goal settings too. So key takeaways, collaboration isn't a bonus, it is a foundation. Everyone wins, including patients, practices, and as well as the clinic. Awesome, thank you.
Thank you, Mehar. And yeah, what I really loved is we've got a podiatrist perspective here on a treatment plan for someone presenting with Achilles tendinopathy. And the cool thing is, if somebody presents at our practice with Achilles tendinopathy, they could start with myo, they could start with physio, they could start with podiatry, and the treatment plan would look a little bit different depending on their starting point, but it's all about that inclusive model and collaboration that Mehar's really highlighted there. Thank you so much. Our next speaker is an absolute superstar in our practice. Talia Webb is an associate physio. Something we're really proud of is that we've created career pathways for our team. And Talia has progressed through that pathway at a rapid rate because of the value that she brings to our patients and our community. So in 2.5 years of practicing, Talia has gone from graduate physio to associate physio, taking on extra responsibility in the practice, which is really fun to kind of highlight Talia's genius zone so she can impact the whole team. Talia's also lives and breathes the active and happy vibes we have at Boost. Talia still coaches calisthenics and actually competes and trains and competes. She won't let us book tickets to the concert, but we'll find a way. And Talia is also an amazing netballer. So yeah, always great to have Talia in our work netball team as well. Talia loves to treat, her ideal patient is active children and active families as an extension of that. Tals, you'll notice, is an amazing communicator, and that's what's made Talia so successful. So anything you can glean from Talia's presentation and implement into your practice will be amazing. Thank you, Tals.
Yes, so what I'm going to be talking about today is backing yourself, so particularly building skills in confidence and communication in practice. This can be pretty daunting straight away, so hopefully we'll break this down a little bit. So, first of all, what confidence really means. It doesn't mean knowing everything, it means trusting your clinical reasoning and decision-making process. So you guys would have done lots about clinical reasoning in uni, and that's what we want to really hone in on. So having a really structured way that you assess, reason, plan, and reassess, and really sticking behind it. So it's knowing what you know, but also what you don't know, and owning it regardless. So it's super powerful to say, yes, I've treated this plenty of times before, I'm super confident we're going to get you better. Equally, it's also powerful to say, this is outside my scope, let's refer or let me seek advice from one of my colleagues. Or even something like, I haven't actually seen much of this condition before, let's learn more about it together. Making it a point of you're going out of your way to do extra research for someone can make them feel really special, and like you're putting in extra care and effort. So often it's a really positive thing that you can bring to a consult and increases their trust in you as a practitioner. You can feel nervous and still be very confident. graduate year and even placements and stuff for uni is very, very nerve-wracking, but that doesn't mean we can't be confident with it. So acting with clarity and intent, even when we're feeling unsure, is really the key to confidence. Body language really matters with this. If you go in and you're sort of looking at your toes and hesitating or fumbling on words, it's much, much harder to look confident and to feel confident. So posture, tone of voice, eye contact can help you project that confidence and to make your patient believe that you're confident even if you're not feeling it. And this works for colleagues as well. Job interviews is a really daunting process. The more confident you can seem, the better you'll go with that. So stand tall, speak clearly, and sort of own your space. So, positive and confident communication. Effective communication is how your confidence shows up in real time. So it's not about sounding fancy, it's just about being really clear. So clear explanations show that you believe in the management plan, and when your reasoning is simply and clearly directed, patients and colleagues can feel that you're confident. So it's important to back ourselves, but it's also really important to stay patient-centered. We don't want to be arrogant, and we don't want to get ahead of ourselves. So listening actively to their concerns, even if it's their concerns about you or your management plan, doesn't weaken your plan, it strengthens the buy-in. So if they feel heard, they're more likely to trust your recommendation. For example, you could say something, I hear you're worried about X, based on my assessment, I still recommend Y, and then give them a reason. So you want to listen to that they are concerned, validate their concerns, and then turn it around to a solution. So empathy and expertise is the authority that they're going to respect. We can't have one without the other. It's no use just knowing the research if you can't connect and share that with your patient. Patients don't just want a confident clinician, they want one that cares as well. So that's really the winning combo. A really good way to do this is avoiding jargon. And I know they talk about this lots in uni, but using simple language builds that mutual understanding and also trust. If someone's coming in and they're talking really relaxed like they'd talk with your friend, and you start talking at them very clinically, that's going to provide a barrier. So you almost need to reflect the way that they communicate with you. So saying something like your hip muscles are weak, strengthening them will help with your pain, rather than we really need to activate your glute med muscle, is going to be much more successful. The more they understand, the more they'll back your plan. So the initial consult is probably, well, I found it to be the most daunting part of placements and starting as a graduate. So we thought we'd go through a bit of a run on some communication tips to help you get through that first consult. So the main one being, use structure, but listen actively. Structure is really important, especially when you're doing it for the first few times. You need to make sure that you know you're going to ask them all the main things that they need to know. So things like aggravating factors, easing factors, pain behaviour and goals. I always pop in my notes template so I know that it's going to jog my memory. I know I'm going to ask them those questions. In saying that, we can't get locked into a checklist. Having really long checklists or notes templates can sometimes be a hindrance because you miss what the patient's really saying. Sometimes they answer a question and go off on a massive tangent, but sometimes that tangent's really important. It might be whether they're emotional buy-in and that's how you're going to get them to reach their goals, or sometimes it is just a tangent and you can steer them back. But yeah, letting them talk and letting them feel heard is very, very, very important. Setting one clear goal for the session. It's really normal to feel super eager, especially if you're feeling confident about something and you go, yes, I know how to treat this. Focus on one thing for that first session. First of all, they're only really going to remember one or two things you tell them anyway, so if you send them home with heaps and heaps of stuff, a lot of it just isn't going to go in. We don't also want to fix everything today, and we can't. So let's say something like, I want them to leave understanding their injury and feeling more confident about moving. A lot of the time we can't change pain in a day or in a half an hour, 40-minute session. It's just not feasible. So we need to send them home with something that they take value from, and education and at-home tips is a really good way to do that. Keep it focused, aim for the small wins, and trust that it will get better over time. The more you see them, the more they'll build that trust, the more information you can load on them slowly. We don't need to diagnose on day one. This is a really important thing too. We don't always need to land on the exact diagnosis. So this means don't spend the whole session doing every test under the sun that you can think of for a knee just because you want to get to the bottom of the pain. Try and find a couple of things that are either different to the other side or different to what we'd expect it to be and focus in on that. Our role is to rule out the red flags and form a working hypothesis and start guiding them in that direction. Clarity and a plan matter more than perfection in one day, and they're going to get more out of it as well. This sort of leads on to leaving time for treating. If we spend too much time on assessment, testing everything out of the sun, we're not going to have time to treat them. And what they're going to remember is the treatment, not the assessment. They're there for the treatment, the assessment's for you to get information out of. So always leave time for treat, even if it's super simple. So a little bit of hands-on massage, giving them one exercises, or even if it's just reassurance, something that makes them feel like they're moving forward. Our goal is if they feel more confident leaving, that's fantastic, even if their pain hasn't changed at all. Confidence is the most powerful outcome measure. If someone comes in being really frightened that they can't do this, and you've left going, okay, we can do this in a modified way, that's them leaving with a win, even if it's a small one. And it builds their belief in you, but also in themselves for their own recovery. Get through it with confidence and then debrief. Zeb's going to touch on mentoring and how important that is especially in our graduate year, but all through your career in a moment. But realistically, if you have a fantastic mentor, all you need to do is get through the first session. So even if you have absolutely no idea what's causing their pain, if you do a couple of tests, give them a bit of a massage, send them home with one thing that they can try at home, then you can reset, talk to your mentor, and go again for next time. So don't feel like you need to know everything, know just enough for each body part and you'll be absolutely fine. This does rely on you having a fantastic mentor like Zeb. So yeah, get through the session with as much confidence as you can. Use your structure, communicate clearly and back your plan. If you sound confident, you're going to know more than they're going to know about that injury. So any sort of tips you can give them is going to be really, really helpful. Every tricky session is a chance to learn more and grow stronger too. I definitely still have to talk to Zeb at least once or twice a week about patients. I have no idea what to do with this patient. So they're really good getting tricky cases and you'll get less and less of them as you go. So rapport is absolutely everything, especially when we're starting out. If we think about what our main aim is from physio or myo or podiatry, most people would say getting out of pain. This is really not the case. We need to get them better than what they were pre-injury. And a lot of times weakness or sedentary behaviour is the reason why they're injured. And if we just get them just better enough that their pain goes away, it's very, very likely that their pain's going to come back. So preventing recurrence and optimising health outcomes is our goal. To do that, we need to have rapport. So long-term outcomes rely on trust, not just pain relief. Backing yourself isn't about fixing the pain, but building trust over time. So pain relief is absolutely important, but our real long-term outcomes is adherence, function, and confidence in their injuries. And they totally rely on the patient trusting you and trusting your advice. People will keep showing up and following plans and sticking with rehab plans when they trust you. This is what gets our sort of global I'm better results, not just I'm out of pain. So rapport helps with patient compliance. It can also amplify your clinical influence. So our advice lands stronger when they trust you, and it also can really, really help with referrals. If you have a really good connection with someone, they're more likely to talk about their fantastic physio or their fantastic podiatrist at a school pickup or at a sporting event, which gets you more patients as well. It also really helps from recovering from treatment setbacks and navigating tricky conversations, which we're going to go through in a little bit more detail in a second. Rapport doesn't always mean saying yes. Building rapport isn't about agreeing or people pleasing. Sometimes backing yourself up means saying something like, no, I don't recommend that, or no, I don't think that's the cause of your pain. If you have rapport, that's quite easy to do. If you have no rapport and you immediately sort of put them down and not listen to their feelings, that's going to provide a real barrier. So rapport is very important to be able to have those tough conversations. And it also allows you to say those things with empathy and clarity rather than, in a denominating way. So people don't remember every word you say, but they remember how they make you feel. If they came in having a terrible day and left feeling better, their pain's going to be better as well. So your tone, warmth and confidence, that's what really sticks. So make them feel heard, respected and hopeful that your plan's going to work. So going into a little bit more detail on when things don't go to plan and how we back ourselves up anyway. Every clinician has made a patient feel worse at some point. You're not alone. It doesn't make it feel any less scary though the first few times it happens. It's a normal part of practice. It's not a sign that we're failing. Rapport keeps communication open when our outcomes aren't ideal. So if you've built rapport, patients will stick with you even when things go sideways. So trust is what keeps them from jumping ship after one flare-up. So whether it's delivering bad news, adjusting goals, or even setting boundaries, rapport gives you that platform to be able to handle those transitions smoothly. They're more likely to come back and say, that didn't feel very good last time, what should we do about it? So making it more collaborative, they're coming to you with your problems and you can adjust and go from there. Setting up expectations beforehand is another really huge one. Especially with acute necks, acute backs, quite often they get worse before they get better. If you send a patient home and they get heaps worse, they're going to feel really scared about it. If you say, look, we got really stuck into it today, those muscles were really cranky and we poked and prodded at them, you might feel a little bit worse for the next 24 hours before you feel better. Then they go home, they feel worse, they know it was coming, they don't feel upset about it, they don't feel like it was, directly your problem. They come back next time and go, yeah, you were right, that really sucked after last appointment, but I feel good now. So setting up that expectation is really important. We also want to set up clear and realistic goals. So if an 80-year-old comes in and says, I want to be able to do 10 cartwheels, we don't say no, but we sort of readjust about how realistic that is. Just don't promise anything that you don't think is realistic. When patients expect setbacks can happen, they cope better when they do. Transparency builds a lot of trust. So being transparent when things aren't ideal, so saying let's readapt and change this plan together, it keeps us in control of the situation, but it also shows that we care and want to collaborate. So backing yourself doesn't mean that pretending everything's fine when it's clearly not. It means owning up to it and owning our process and then guiding them through it. When a patient's bucket is full, they're more understanding. If you go in, you're very, very clinical, you might have the best treatment plan in the world, but you're not filling their bucket. If you make them feel heard, you make them feel like they've got a friend, they can chat to someone about, you're filling their bucket, then if they get worse and a bit of water comes out, their bucket's still got enough left in it. So they can't emphasise how important it is. So, challenging questions and what to do when one of these come up. So what happens when we don't know the answer? First, focus on what you do know and what you can tell them. So even if you don't have the answer fully, try and give them some clarity surrounding it. So based on what I'm seeing today, this is what our next step's going to be. Use their language, so meet them where they are. Avoid clinical jargon when they're feeling uncertain or worried. So try and reflect their words back at them to show that you're hearing them. We want to collaborate with them to find a solution. So back yourself leading the process, but involve them as well. Let's work together to find an approach that suits you. We also want to seek to understand, not dismiss. So when patients challenge you, you want to lean in with curiosity, not just go, nope, you're wrong, or nope, that doesn't happen like that. So we never want to be defensive, we always want to use it as a learning platform. So this keeps the rapport really intact, even when there's really difficult conversations, and it often reveals what the real barrier is. So we'll go through this with some examples. If anyone's feeling bold, I'd love for you to yell out what you would say with this. So something like, physio doesn't work for me. How can we respond? This can go for Maya, doesn't work for me, podiatry doesn't work for me. So something like, I hear that, can you tell me more about what treatments you've tried? Then say if they've tried heaps of dry needling and heaps of massage, but they haven't tried any exercise yet, we can be like, all right, I've heard we've tried this, let's adapt it and let's try this instead. It's the beauty of all of our professions. There's so many different ways to treat, which means when people come in saying something hasn't worked, it's very rarely that they've tried absolutely everything. It's really important to run through what they have tried and then adapt from there. Something like, I've tried exercise before. All right, fantastic. We need more information. So what kind of exercise was it? How did it make you feel? How long did you try it for? My aim is to tailor something that fits better to your schedule. Often it's time, often it's they tried it for 2 weeks and didn't get better, so stopped. Explaining that it's a long-term change for exercise, explaining that, okay, let's adapt it to fit in with your schedule is going to be really important. The last one is probably the most daunting one because it comes up the most often, especially in your grad year. How long till I get better? Saying stuff like, that's a great question. Recovery time can really vary. Based on similar cases I've seen, give them very broad. Like I'm talking within months. So some people recover in 2 weeks, some people recover in 4 months. Give yourself some leeway and just say, but we'll monitor and adapt it as we go. So we'll keep checking in with each other. If you don't know, go broad. And then you're not wrong. So, key takeaways from today. Confidence comes from trusting your process, trusting your clinical reasoning and knowing that you'll get to the right answer, even if it's not straight away, not from knowing everything. Clear and empathetic communication is our most powerful tool in gaining information from patients, making them trust you and getting them better. Setting realistic goals, focusing on progress, not on perfection. Rapport and trust is way more important than short-term pain relief. And when you don't know the answer, collaborate, don't bluff. Fantastic.
Thank you, Charles. And I think, I was being a bit ambitious thinking I could get this back up. Do it. Yes. I think what Talia has described here is probably the most important thing as a graduate to know. That rapport is everything, right? If we have that, we could do great things. And we have seen physios with 20 years experience who get, let me reframe that. We've seen early career physiotherapists 2 years out who can actually get better outcomes than somebody with up to 20 years experience, right? Why? Because they can communicate. They can build rapport and trust. So I hope you took lots of notes during that session. It is now my privilege to introduce our lead physio, in fact our clinical lead for the whole practice, Zeb. And Zeb is going to chat to us about the reality of clinic life in private practice and specifically in multidisciplinary practice. Zeb is the accidental comedian of our team. He keeps us laughing, doesn't even know how he does it, but he is doing it. King of the futsal field. Futsal, that we call it. Thank you. And certainly just adds so much value to our team. So really cool example of career progression, right? That Zeb is working on business development, mentoring, presenting, such a huge scope in his role at Boost. So thank you, Zeb. I think we're going to get some pearls out of this session.
Thanks, Vids. I was wondering when you brought up Mehar's hockey and Talia's calisthenics. I don't know if my futsal's in the same role with their skills, but I'll take it anyway, so thank you very much. Hey everyone, my name is Zeb. Thank you for coming along. It's great to see so many of you here today. I'd love to talk to you about real clinical life. So clinical life unfiltered, and the differences that I found when I was a new grad to what I expected when I was at uni, to what I think all of us kind of found when we actually started in private practice, because what I thought wasn't really the reality of what happened in private practice, and so it's really important to know what the reality is like and finding your fit in the right way, workplace as well. So that's what we're going to look at today. So firstly, I'm going to show you a schedule here. It's a physio schedule. It could be for any discipline. And this is a flow day, and we'll go into more detail of this later. This isn't what you would do as a new grad, but you might see a few patients, then you'll have some time to ask a question, send a letter to a GP, some more questions, time for lunch, time for patients, Pilates classes, more time off where you can do things together, do things like phone calls, order braces, and things like that. You might have a meeting or physio development, and then you might have emails or email replies and research to do as well. And so this is what we kind of want to aim for, not as a new grad, but as you kind of develop and you develop your habits, this is what we want to aim for. Kind of a busy day, but it's busy with flow, not with friendly. So we're going to come back to this in a second. What we don't want, or one thing we don't want, is the quiet day. So this day where you have a patient at 9 o'clock and then you have a gap from 10 to 11, so you're not doing very much. There's plenty of time for notes, but there's also a lot of time where you're sitting around, twiddling your thumbs, not doing very much. So I'm going to throw it out there. If I don't get answers, I will pick someone. How do you think it feels to have a day like this? What do you thought? What comes to mind? No right or wrong answers. Throw something out.
Spinning the wheels.
Sorry?
Feels like you're spinning the wheels.
Spinning the wheels, yeah. What else? Throw anything out.
Bored.
Bored, yeah, exactly, yeah.
Unmotivated.
Unmotivated, yeah, perfect, yeah. So exactly all those things you get. It's frustrating if you have one patient and then you have an hour where, yeah, maybe there's some stuff to do, but an hour where you're just sitting in a room with 4 walls, you feel like a bit unfulfilled. You lose your momentum before you see another patient. And this doesn't really help you to grow clinically. Confidence, like what Talia talked about, comes from repetition, so doing things lots and seeing patients in a row and actually being busy actually helps to some extent. So we want to make sure we do that, but we do it in a really healthy way. So that's what we want to do. Now here's the other end of the spectrum, the chaos day. And don't get me wrong, some clinics do look like this, and every now and then you might have a day like this, but you don't want this to become your norm. So yeah, have between 9 and 11:30, you have 5 patients in a row, but you also have to reply to an email. You have to call the patient back, then there's a specialist referral you've got to follow up on. You quickly have lunch before you've got 3 more patients to see, you have an ankle brace you've got to order, ask a receptionist a question, send a letter to a GP, there's a Pilates class in there, and there's just lots going on. What do we think when we see this? What comes to mind?
Burnout.
Burnout, yeah, exactly. What else? What words? Overwhelmed, exactly. It's anxiety induced for me as well. Like, I've worked for a while, and if I have to do this all the time, gosh, it's not a really happy, it's not a great day. And this doesn't bring fulfillment either. So we want to go back to finding that flow between the two. Awesome. So going back to our flow day, the flow day is a day with rhythm. It means that we still get lots done, we're still busy, we're still fulfilled, but we're doing things in by like batching tasks, and we're seeing enough patients so that we grow, but we also have moments to reset, moments to connect with others, and this is the kind of day that feels good as you kind of get more experience and you work more. So you want a clinic that helps you grow into this. It's not something you might do in your your first few months or even your first year, but as you improve your habits and better your skills, this is the kind of place that really feels good and makes you feel like, wow, I can do this, and I'm not going to do this for 2 years and then I have to change career or that kind of thing as well. So that's what you want to look for in a clinic. Now, one other thing that I'll touch on here is something that you'll all hopefully experience pretty soon when you graduate, is the new grad day. So the days that you'll experience when you've just started off for the first few months until you find your feet. So we're still seeing patients in a row. We've got patient 1, 2 and 3 in a row, because we want to build those habits of seeing patients back to back and getting into the routine of doing this. But then we have time for notes and maybe a short debrief with your mentor or someone else in the clinic, because you probably have questions after those patients. You might then see another patient, and then we've got physio development, which we'll talk about later, and then lunch as well, and a daily huddle, all things we'll talk about later, and a class as well. So you've got still lots of stuff happening, but you feel like you have time to breathe, reflect, which is probably the biggest thing, and reset as well. That way you can think, you can learn from what you're doing, and you don't feel like your whole schedule is packed out. So this is the supportive start that you want to make sure that the clinic that you end up working at has, and it's something that's really important to ask about. Awesome. So, why does structure work? Structure like this works because back-to-back patients actually gets us in flow. We're used to what we're doing, and it gets us into a rhythm as well. So instead of these up and down moments where we're seeing a patient and then sitting in a room, and sitting a patient and sitting in a room, we can actually get into really good flow, and that gives us predictability. And that helps with two things: patient care, because you really care about the patients coming into you and you spend your time really wisely. But then as a practitioner, you feel so much more fulfilled doing this, and so your practitioner performance goes up as well. And lastly, mental switching. I'm not sure about you guys, but I'm someone who, if I'm left to it, I will go jump from one task to another task, doing another thing, and my head's all over the place. And if you're doing that during a work day, especially as a new grad, even later on, it's really mentally taxing and it takes so much energy out of you. So that's why when you start at a workplace, you want to make sure there's some kind of structure that you can work towards and that they have for you. So, what are some things that we touched on earlier that I think you should look for as a new grad? So firstly, bookend mentoring sessions. If you think of a bookend, you have the start and the finish. And so we use bookend mentoring at Boost to have mentoring at the start of the week and at the end of the week. So the start of the week as a new grad, you might have a session with your mentor, and you'll look forward. So you look, what patients are coming in? What do you need help with? What can we look forward and do? And then you also get mentoring at the end of the week. So this is more reflective. You've had the week, you've got to the end of the week, I had this really tricky patient. This is what I did with them, what should I do next? And so it really helps you as a new grad to feel like you get through your week and you're not left all alone and with questions. The second thing to look out for is internal PD, and I've written down actual internal PD. I'm sure some of you would have seen this. If you look on Seek right now for a pod, physio, myo job, the chances are they'll say, we do mentoring and we do internal PD. And yes, this is true, most places do, but you actually want to know what's it like, and it's a really important question to ask. What's the mentoring like? What's the internal PD like? What did they do in the last 3 months? What do they have planned coming forward? Because PD can look like one thing a year and you get a little bit of a budget, or it can look like collaboration with your team, having guest speakers in, going out to do PD as well, and lots of different things like that. So just make sure that you clarify with the job that you look for, what is their PD schedule actually like. Physio, pod or myo development, something we do here, so this is within your discipline, is a really good way to learn because you hear other people's challenging cases and it makes you feel better that you're not the only one who's struggling with some stuff. And it also means that you don't get just your mentor's kind of advice, but you get it from other people. There's been times where someone else will say a really good gem, and it doesn't have to be the most experienced person in the room, it's just someone who's got another point to put in. So getting time with your own discipline to talk through cases and talk through things which you're finding difficult is really important too. Catch up or admin time. So like we saw in the diary, we'll usually schedule 2 or 3 patients before you have a break. Making sure you have this little break to catch up on your notes, reflect, and really think about those patients really helps cement your learning. Because if you're constantly going from one patient to the next the whole day through, you often just don't get to actually reflect, and then by the time you know it, the patient's coming in again and you don't know what you're doing, and that can really lead to unfulfillment. Daily huddles is something we do at Boost. It's more of a Boost thing, but it's worthwhile seeing that the practice that you end up working at has this kind of thing. So every day we meet at each of our clinics with all of our team, our reception team and our practice who are on at the time. And we just meet and we talk, what's our win, what's gone well for the day, what are we working on, and what can we use help with. And it's a really good way to support each other and to see how we can help others and how others can help us too. And there's so many times where we've done this and someone's like, oh, Zeb, I can help you with this, I can give you help, have you tried doing this? And it means that you're not stuck just sitting in the room worrying about problems yourself. You've got a really good team, both practitioner-wise and admin-wise, supporting you as well. Another thing to look out for is a really good induction program. So we call it the 0 to 100 program, which is the first 100 days at working in a clinic. And so you want to make sure that you're not just thrown into lots of patients and you're not just thrown into seeing one person then another. You're actually allowed to learn about processes, learn about things like maybe work cover and TAC, and learn about how Medicare billing works and how to write a good GP letter. And all of these things that if they're missed, you could go 1 or 2 years and then suddenly you feel like there's so much stuff that you're missing out on. So a really good induction program is absolutely key. And lastly, another thing to look out for is ongoing improvements. Is the clinic that you're looking at working at a place that invests in you and invests in things? For example, technology. Do you have things like what Mehar mentioned, the gold strength testing equipment? So new pieces of tech which are really important, or something that we're starting to use here, which is Heidi AI, which is note-taking software, which makes note-taking and stuff a lot easier, and GP letters a lot easier too. Does the clinic that you're looking at have these kind of things, and are they investing in these kind of things in the future? Because the reality is physio and pod and Maya are all really changing, and what was done 5 or 10 years ago is already changing, and what's being done in the next 5 or 10 years will really change as well. So if your clinic's not improving like that, you're likely that you'll get stagnant, and unfortunately some people you can kind of get left behind. So all of these things really help with your fulfillment as well. Awesome. So before accepting a job, here's a few things that you can do that could really help you out. So firstly, has anyone heard of being a mystery shopper or doing mystery shopping? Yeah? So call the clinic. You don't have to say that you're looking to have a job there. Call and speak to the reception team. And yeah, see what they say. Oh, I'm moving to the area. What services do you have there? Who are your podiatrists? Who are your physios? What do you have at the clinic? And see what they do. If you have if you have someone on the phone who they sound like, oh, you're a bit of an inconvenience to me, and they're just waiting to get you off the phone, that's probably someone who, if you're a practitioner in that clinic, you might be feeling like that as well. So see how it is. My job, and all of our jobs, I can attest, is so much easier because here we have a reception team that is absolutely next level. And it makes my job so much easier, it makes patients so much happier, and if you have a really good reception and support team around you, it really, really helps. So get a suss of what they're like. Even if you walk into the clinic and see what they're like, do they greet you? Are they really friendly? Are they asking you questions? All of that's really important to know what they're like as well. Ask to come in for OBS. Ask to come in and do OBS with the director or one of the physios, the podiatrists, or that kind of thing, to get a real sense of how do they interact with their patients? How do they welcome them into the room? How do they interact with them in a Pilates class? How do they treat and do all of that stuff as well? It's a really good way to see if there's gaps or it's not really going to be a clinic that fits you. Look at socials and reviews. All of you are way younger than me, so I'm sure you're all on top of socials, but look at Instagram and Facebook and all that kind of thing and see what they post on there and see what's around. Is a really good way to learn a bit more about the clinic and what it's like. Talk to the new grad. Ask to talk to the new grad at the clinic. You know, the most recent physio or pod or whatever modality it is. If you speak to a director or a boss, or you're having an interview and at the end you say, oh, is it possible to talk to your new grad just to see what their experience was like? And they say, oh no, that's okay, let me answer their questions for you. It's a bit of a red flag that they might not be too comfortable with you speaking to some of their staff and that kind of thing, because you might get a bit of a different opinion to what they're sharing with you. So ask to talk to them, and if they're not that willing, it might be something to look out for. And lastly, get clarity. Ask questions on what does mentoring look like? What will I be doing? What's my first 3 months? What induction programs do you do? When people come in for interviews and they ask these kind of questions, I've never been turned off. It comes across like you're really trying to learn more and you're really interested in the job. So don't feel scared to ask these kind of questions and really ask for clarity, because you knowing more about the job will really help cement whether you're confident in working there or not. So, key takeaways. Great clinics are structured, so make sure you look for a clinic to work at that is structured. And it's not to overload you, but it's to support you. So after you graduate in the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years, that you really develop good habits to work really well. The important things, having flow, having good mentoring, connection, and great systems is what makes it really sustainable, and that's what stops that burnout from happening as well. So make sure that you check that kind of stuff. And lastly, don't be afraid to ask questions. I know I was so afraid, especially in my job as a new grad, to ask questions and think, oh, what will they think of me? But ask all the real hard-hitting questions and get clarity on that kind of stuff and learn. And that's about it. Cool. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. So Seb's going to work his magic with our technology here. This is awkward because we haven't invited our new grad, so this is like very sus that we don't want you to talk to her. Actually, we did invite our newest graduate, Kira. Kira is a professional basketball player, so she was playing WNBL. She's semi-retired and is now playing NBL 1 for Knox. So she's at basketball training tonight, but we really wanted to represent Kira's perspective because she is our freshie. So very relatable for you guys. So Kira has actually made us a video in her absence, so we're going to play that in a moment. But I'll give Zeb some space here to get this set up. But what I'd love for you guys to do is just start on the Q&A page, write down some questions that you would like to ask. We may not get to every question, but if there's questions unanswered, you can certainly let me know and we will respond via DM or email if we can't get to everything. But take a moment just to reflect and have a think about whether you have any questions when we get to Q&A. Very first one. We might actually have time for, perhaps we do a couple of questions while we're waiting for Kira's video. But before we do, I wanted to introduce Carina, who is going to be on our Q&A panel. Carina is a physiotherapist at Boost who completed her graduate year last year and has been an incredible member of our physio team. Carina has a gift with socials, so if any of you follow us on socials, you will see that, Carina makes such amazing content. She's also very strong and very flexible, you know, on our Instagram. So Carina, embodies active and happy, 100%. Probably should have said at the start that that's our core purpose, is to keep people active and happy, right? Carina does calisthenics in Talia's team. Absolute boss on the netball court and an amazing runner. So Carina recently completed a half, and what are you training for next?
Another 2 halves in the next few months.
Amazing. So awesome to have Carina on our Q&A panel as well. What do you think, Zeb? Should we do a bit of Q&A or are we ready to go?
I reckon we're good to go.
Okay, beautiful.
Awesome.
Hey everyone, my name's Kira. I am a new grad physio here at Boost. I studied at La Trobe University. I did my degree part-time across 7 years while I played professional basketball, and I joined the Boost team about 6 months ago. So today I'm going to talk to you about the first 6 months as a new grad in private practice. Stepping straight into private practice, straight out of uni, does seem quite daunting. I remember questioning if I wanted to do private practice just because I didn't feel very prepared. It wasn't until my final placement that I decided that no, that's definitely what I want to do, and I'm so glad that I jumped straight in and did it. One of the biggest challenges that I found was feeling like you need to know everything before you start work or before you see each patient, feeling like you had to cram all the knowledge in to be ready to go. It's definitely not the case. No one knows everything, and it's okay to be unsure at times. That's why we have such great support systems around us. Everyone bounces ideas off people and asks questions, which is a great environment that we have here at Boost. As a new grad, it might seem like you don't know much, but one thing you do know is where to start, and that'll get you on the right track. After that, you have the skills to know where to look or who to ask, at least, so you're off to a great start already, and you'll be able to figure it out from there. A few of the key skills that I have found really important over the first 6 months are learning to close your laptop at the end of the day. It's easy to want to take work home or do extra things to I've been working on and has got a bit of time. Another thing would be with notes. Notes can seem quite overwhelming at uni, but they're a lot more straightforward when you just get out there and doing them. You'll find your own style of writing notes, and as long as you're ticking the key boxes and making them so they're easy for everyone to understand, that's the main thing. One thing I really try to do is write down any objective measures in the moment. It's easy to think, oh, I want to give all my focus to the patient and remember everything, but in reality it's quite hard to remember everything that you do. And sometimes it is better to just say, hey, I'm just going to write these down as we go, because then we can compare back at the end of the session. It's going to show that you care and you actually want to compare and see what results you're getting. And it shows that you're not just jumping in your laptop, you've got a reason and that's what you're doing. Another thing with the notes would be putting the effort into writing a little plan at the end for next time. It's easy to just say, oh, I'm going to review them in 2 days or sometime next week. But if I actually say, yeah, I want to keep doing with the massage that I'm doing, I was going to add in these 2 exercises, and this is the education I want to push next session. So you can continue your train of thought when you pick up in the next session. It makes it a lot easier. Another element that I found really important is working on communication. Talking to people is one thing, and then having really effective communication is a whole other level. So it's sometimes tricky to find the balance with different patients because everyone's different on what type of information they respond well to, what type of education and feedback they thrive on. But those skills kind of build up over time, and something that I think I'm starting to get a little bit better at. Finding balance and having really meaningful education. One of the best ways that I found to do that is linking any education or anything that I'm explaining back to their goals. So, it's one thing to say we're going to do this exercise to help your shoulders, it's going to stop it from being sore, but if they don't understand how it's going to stop it from being sore by strengthening everything around what's going on, and then linking that to their goal of being able to bend down and pick up their grandchild, for example. It just adds extra levels of buy-in. They're going to do the exercises more because they understand what it's doing and how it's helping them, not just thinking, oh, these are getting exercises, but what are they even doing? So that's really another thing that I've been working on a lot lately. And finally, a few things that help me stay present and energized between each patient would be taking a minute between consults, especially as I got busier. Sometimes I've had full days, which has been awesome. Super fast paced and loving it. This is 6 months down. The early days were a lot more relaxed. But yeah, just on those busy days, making sure I do take 1 minute just to breathe, have a quick skim through their notes, remind myself of my plan of what I was doing, what was the next steps, or if it's a new patient, just having a quick read through their new patient form, seeing what information I can pick up about them, and just feeling really centered going into each patient. It's a lot better to take that extra minute, even if you're already running a tad behind, and have really high quality appointment than rushing out, grabbing them, realising you don't even know what they're seeing for, can't remember which side of the body you're treating, and fumbling through things. So that was one of the key things that's really helped me to stay present and on top of things. The other thing that's helped me stay really energized for work each day is making sure I prioritize my stuff outside of work as well. I still play basketball at a semi-professional level, so I train multiple times a week with team trainings and individuals, doing weights a few times a week as well, and finding time to still go for walks with my dogs, spend time with my family. So can seem like a lot to manage, but that being able to figure out something that works for me has made everything so much better. I'm really loving what I'm doing. I feel calm, I feel like I've got time for everything, and just got really good balance. So yeah, just prioritising the things outside of work as well.
Awesome, wise words from Kira 6 months into her career. I think my key insight there is Kira's reflections on thinking about your future self. And so taking that extra moment when you're doing treatment notes to write out your plan for the next, might be 2 sentences. What am I doing in the next session? That is helping our future self. We're going to go into that next consult so much slicker. So great little life hack there from Kira. All right, Q&A. Do you guys want to move your stools? Should we? Yeah. Let's get ourselves centered. I'm going to kick us off with a question that somebody has actually sent through to us. Thank you, Alistair. So, okay, I feel like we've talked about how active the mentorship and mentoring has been. Did you have any follow-up questions about mentorship?
No, it's quite well covered.
It was quite well covered, I think, Zeb nailed it. All right, and what do you see as a reasonable progression for new grads to 6 months? I think that's a really good question. Carina, you've been there recently.
Yeah.
How would you define a great progression over the first 6 months of your career?
I reckon, or for myself at least, like really working on certain skills. Like it's like uni's taught us heaps of like I guess practical skills, which is great, but also I reckon communication wise, being able to build like rapport with patients and then like seeing your caseload sort of build up slowly within the first 6 months is really good. And you're working through a lot of like communication PDs to like help with that as well. It was like recent for you to see where you're at from when you started and when you sort of finish around that 6 months sort of time.
Yes.
So yeah.
Love it. And look, it's awesome if we have data. So we haven't even talked about this, but in private practice, in a lot of situations, the leadership team will be collating data on performance, right? If that data is used for good, not evil, it can majorly advance your career, right? Because your mentors will be able to look at the data and go, oh, I can see a gap. I know how to mentor on this, right? I can coach this person. Maybe it's rebooking rate. That's a communication thing. I can help them. But without data, we just don't know. We're not in the consult room with you, right? So that's a cool way to measure progression, that you can actually see that with data.
And sort of one of my questions, like what does KPIs sort of look like in this clinic?
Yeah.
For grads?
Cool. That one. KPIs. We call them CEIs, or just let these guys find it. KPIs are scary, it's corporate. We like to think of it as clinical excellence indicators. All right, because if you're meeting your KPIs, your targets, you are clinically excellent. Right, and it mostly comes down to communication. So do you want to talk to that? What's it look like for us?
Some of the main KPIs we look at, well, firstly, we don't always go through the KPIs with mentees, with new grads and things like that. It's more on a case-by-case basis if you're really interested in the numbers. Some people love seeing, I had 40 patients this week and this many rebooked or this many cancelled or things like that. And so if that's something that someone enjoys and likes to look at the numbers, then we'll go into that. If not, then we don't tend to look at it from that point of view, but it might be something that your mentor looks at. So we'll look at, it's of your patients, people with knee pain don't tend to rebook as much. That could be the case that you need to we need to help you upskill in how much you know about knee pain or ACLs or like something like that. Same thing with lots of different conditions. So there, rebooking and cancellation are probably two things that we look at, and then what's the goal?
It's also just very goals orientated. So it's like this is what we're aiming for. This is what we're aiming for achieving in your career now, and it's really reward focused as well. So for us, if we're hitting all our CEIs, we get a bonus. So it's reward based. So if you're doing it, you get rewarded. It's not, if you're not doing it, you get punished. So I think that's a really, really big part of it. So it makes us want to try and achieve them more, and it makes those conversations with our mentor, it doesn't seem confronting, like, oh, you're telling me that my cancellation rate's too high. It's like, okay, well, how can we get it down? And then if we do achieve it, we get a really fantastic reward for that as well. So it's more goal orientated.
Yeah, and it's not about the number. The number is just the indicator that shows your mentor how to help you, right? The number is going to be like, oh, I know, I can see, I can help here. This is a communication thing. The other, what was I thinking on that as well? I think the focus on KPIs changes as your career develops. And so for an early career physio pod myo, we're looking at what we would call nurturing statistics. And so that is like these guys said, rebooking rate, cancellation rate, we call it DNA rate, did not arrive, your no-shows, okay? Those CEIs show rapport and communication. How well are we delivering a treatment plan? And so that's what we're going to focus on first. And then as somebody progresses, we look to things like PVA, patient visit average. How many times do patients come back? That's a more advanced skill because we can see that we're delivering a management plan. Forward booking, are we booking a few appointments at a time to give patients that clarity and certainty about what it's going to take for them to achieve their goals. So those are more advanced skills. So it's a progression through the CEIs. And I think this is a really good one to ask, good question to ask future employers, right? What is the clinic's relationship with KPIs? And just get the sense, are they used for coaching or are they used for meeting revenue targets? Okay. Awesome question, thank you. So Josh, thank you for your question. Sorry, I'm on a small screen here. Okay, like this. What is an underrated skill to communicate in the treatment of a patient across multiple disciplines? So think about a patient who is, and we have a lot that see pod, myo and physio, right? They've got the whole team, whole crew looking after them. What's an unrelated skill that makes that happen smoothly, Taz?
I think knowing your boundaries is probably a really big one. So for a lot of it, there are things that, yeah, you could do it, but could someone else do it better? And that's really important. So a really good example is like gait analysis. We, as physios, all do gait analysis. Podiatrists do it so much. They have fancy machines, they can assess angles of joint ranges and all of that stuff. So yes, I can do a gait assessment and I might do one in a treatment. And if I notice that, there's a couple of things that I think might be off with that, that's a really good referral pathway. So I think knowing what your strengths are, and similar with myo, like I know how to give a massage and I reckon it's all right, but but like especially in physio in uni, I reckon we maybe did 3 or 4 classes on it. Myos do a year, so of course they're going to be better equipped for that. So that's a really good tool in knowing when to refer, staying in your genius zone and passing off to others in this.
Yeah, thanks Josh. All right. Who's got another burning question? I reckon we've got time for 3 more. Thank you.
More specifically, just one Mehar. Because podiatry is sort of broad, just when this seems like more of like MSK by clinic, do you see a big range, like general treatment between, like what sort of range do you see?
Yeah, absolutely. So, like at Boost at the moment, it just varies between week to week. Sometimes you've got like 80% MSK, but sometimes 20 NAS, nail and skin, or sometimes vice versa. The great thing about it as well with nail and skin patients are more my goals are more in terms of like I want to see more MSK patients or some kids living with specific conditions. And sometimes what happens is you see like a parent and a mom and they're like, I've had a chat with them a little bit more about podiatry and what we do. Because sometimes I realise they don't know what podiatry is and what we do, and it's just like, we're just cutting necks. And I'm like, no. It's a little bit extra than that, and that way you can turn that patient into an MSK, vice versa. Sometimes with MSKs you notice, hey, I think I'm really bad at your toenail. Let's have a look at that too. So,
yeah, I think one of the things we strive for is balance. There are definitely some pod clinics that are only MSK, and some people love that. For us, that feels a little hectic. It's a lot mentally to be problem solving all day and having MSK patients all day. Again, it's for some people, but we're proud of our mix of patients that yes, you're problem solving, and then you get Margaret. Like, Margaret, this is so lovely. Have a lovely chat. Look after Margaret, and it's just that little bit of downtime in your day, and obviously still adding massive value. And Mehar does it really well in looking for opportunities to educate And yeah, you're right, sometimes Margaret's like struggling with heel pain for 6 months. She's been to the podiatrist 6 times. Never mentioned the heel pain because she doesn't know the scope. So get good at educating on your scope. And sometimes that's around the conversations that we have. Let's be intentional about what are we talking to our patients about. If you're treating a mum but you really want to treat active kids, ask about the kids' sport. Let's get that conversation happening, because then they might say, oh, he's out with knee pain, loves his soccer but can't play at the moment. Oh, I can help with that. So intentionality is awesome. You do that well, Mehar. All right, 2 more questions. Who's up? All right. Oh, thank you. Let's go Stacey and then Alistair, and then we'll break.
I just had like, what's the most positive or like standout thing that you felt like you've learned from private practice?
Good question. Carina, do you want to take that one?
I probably reckon it's like the relationships you can make with patients, I guess. Like, I definitely knew that it was going to be pretty good just to help them out recovery-wise, get them onto this plan so that they can definitely still maintain all their fitness and everything. But definitely, I reckon, out of all of it, all the relationships you make with your patients is probably the best thing I've sort of learned. And you still learn that everyone's really different too, so it's great to just experience all that. So I reckon that's probably one of the highlights about it, I reckon.
Yeah, I love it. And along with that comes, how do I communicate with different types of patients? I think Charles and Kira both alluded to that we're intentional about teaching, coaching our team on this is how we communicate for this type of person, this is how we adapt it for that type of person. So you don't learn this stuff at uni, but you want to be in a clinic that values communication level ups so that you can have those beautiful rapport relationships that Carina has. Love it. Alistair.
It's more operational, like, so you got 3 clinics, right? So when you have the job here, are you just working in one clinic or are you rotating?
Yeah, good question.
Because I imagine like you're the lead clinical, do you have like senior physios at other places as well?
So,
Oh, okay. I can talk to that
Yeah,
one. Yeah,
you can.
easy one.
Yeah.
Give me the easy one. Yeah, so we have 2 main locations, and because they're so close together, they're only 7 minutes apart. So our patient base kind of spreads equally across the clinics. They're happy to go to either. So we want to keep our clinics really connected from a team culture perspective. So everybody works across those 2 clinics. Their week is split. And then we've got a satellite clinic, and that's just for podiatry. So it's sort of 2.5 clinics. And our pods just do, you know, little bits at the satellite clinic just to help that community out. So yeah, for us it's culture. Like, we don't want 2 teams, we want 1 team, and that's something really important to us, which is why we split across. We all work across both clinics, including reception team. Yeah. All right. Well, I reckon you probably have other questions, but while we're having dinner, pizza, please come and harness these great minds. Like, it's an awesome opportunity to chat together, chat with us, pick our brains about any burning questions that you still have. In at the back of your workbooks, you'll see a couple of things. One is a certificate of attendance, and we reckon this would be awesome to add to your LinkedIn profiles. I know that a lot of you have amazing LinkedIn profiles, and we look at those, right? We want to see that you are actively investing in, you know, your knowledge and your experience. So yeah, I reckon this will look good. So pop it in that you've done this course. You can link it to us. Shows that you are invested and committed to be the best you can in private practice. You will also see a lovely voucher that our beautiful sponsor One, actually One, I might get you out here. We are very grateful that One and the Estia team have provided us pizza for dinner. They have generously supplied that. And yeah, by way of introduction, One is a rep from Estia and with 15 years experience. I'm going to look at my notes so I don't mess anything up here, but unfortunately Collingwood supporter, despite his beautiful full set of curly lights. One is here to support us with any product questions that we might have. So he's the guy to go to when you're in a clinic and perhaps wanting to try different suppliers. They can help us with all of our products, consumables, braces, clinical equipment, and the works. So one not only has supplied dinner but also a voucher for you guys. So that's going to look good when you rock up your first day at work and show them that you've got this. Very generous, thank you. Did you want to say anything?
No, just from my end, well done to you and the team. It's not often you often see clinics working with other professionals or qualified professionals, so giving back to students, and you'll all be professionals in there, I'm sure. It's great to see investing in the fraternity and the industry, and the passion that comes through is really exciting and good to see. So well done to you and the team.
Thank
It's
you.
a very good event. And thank you for having us and giving me the opportunity to come and present. I have got some business cards on my little table over there, so if you do want to claim your voucher, just grab a business card so that you can do that. And we have 15,000 products across the range, and we do everything from consumables to your Pilates equipment, treatment tables, and the face sheets that you use. So if you have any questions around that, feel free to come and have a chat.
Yeah, so one has got a table set up here full of amazing things, so go have a play, get familiar with some of the equipment and consumables that we use in private practice, and one can answer any questions that you have. Alright, I reckon that is a wrap. So actually, before we do, I'm going to be cheeky and ask for a group photo. So why don't we have, everybody, if we can stand in front of the, actually, can we put the first slide on? And we might have boosters up